Oh, next we have, oh, you can see James, he's already here. Man, hey, hello. Can you hear me?
How long have you been doing this, Cap? This is like hour two?
Yeah, this is hour two. Um, and things are moving super quickly. I'm not even noticing the time is flying by. Sorry, we're a bit late. But
No
thank
worries.
you, thank you for joining.
I've been listening for a while, and I have to ask, is my microphone sound okay? I'm like testing
Perfect.
out a different one. Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah. Thank you for joining. For those of you who don't know, James Beck is the official head of growth for ENS, and I've had a pleasure to chat with him for a while. And I can safely say that he is one of the coolest people to work for ENS because he has experience both at Consensus, at MetaMask, at Mirror. He's a Web3 OG, Web3 veteran. Um, Thank you for taking the time to join us, man, and share a little bit of about ENS growth. Is that what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to talk about ENS growth. I want to give, maybe a bit of a recap of the time I spent at ICANN last week, which was in Seattle. It was ICANN
Yes, please do.
Um,
Give us the highlights.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I guess I'll start just with the background of myself. I joined ENS. It's now been almost 2 months, and I think what has been surprising to me is, when I was at Consensus, we were first starting to talk about the term of Web3 and introducing normal people to the world of smart contracts and programmable blockchains. The first thing you do is get an ENS name. And so, in a lot of ways, describing Web3 is describing this idea that you have an identity that travels around to different apps and different like ideas that you have on the internet. You have this singular identity, and it can connect all those virtual identities you have. So it's a pretty easy concept for people to get behind. Beyond the utilitarian, oh yeah, I don't want to remember this 24 character hexadecimal address. I want a name. I want my name. But upon joining ENS Labs, I've actually realized how deep the ENS DAO ecosystem is, and that there are so many different archetypes and personas, from people who are part of like collection clubs to people who really are just integrating ENS in different app levels to, people like Brantley, who's building Ethereum Follow protocol and a whole social media platform around this.
Shout out
So
to
it's been really
Brantley.
cool to see. Yeah. And people like yourself, who's, in
Yeah.
addition to doing a multi-hour live stream on a Friday, building a very important company for issuing subnames. So it's been cool to see, trying to understand how all these different parts work together
Yeah.
for us. And so I would say, yeah, probably the first month of time has been getting to know my team, coming up with and sharing a growth strategy, which I can talk about a little bit, but
Please
also getting
do.
to know the ecosystem.
Yeah, ecosystem is pretty cool, and ENS, as you know, started as a domain name system, and then it turned into like identity, usernames, profiles. I think I mentioned this in one of my articles. Like, it's been called so many names that it's trying to keep up with its own growth. And one of the reasons I'm happy about ENS V2 and name chain is that it literally addresses the needs of the market, and it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, did you want to give us like a quick highlights from ICANN conference?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about ICANN. So
Mhm.
I shared a thread that was, I guess it was on Monday or Tuesday, and it was kind of the highlights of what I consider to be a very arcane world of DNS governance. And so, what I mean arcane, I mean a few things. You're inundated in technical acronyms, both at the DNS level, so things like CCLD, GTLD, all of these terms that I had some understanding of, but I think that more arcane terms are actually on the governance side. And so it makes DAOs seem quite simple compared to the way that ICANN works. Every single working group has its own acronym, different processes like UDRP for disputes, or um, PTI for public technical identifiers. There were
Yeah.
so many of these acronyms. It became kind of overwhelming. And but by like 3 or 4 days of this, I think I started figuring it out. And the other thing I was thankful for was, so our general counsel, many of you probably know about him, Alex Urbellis. He
Mhm.
actually represented as an IP lawyer back in 2012, tons of big brands, including Google, on their own GTLD applications. So he knew a lot of people. We had a lot of meetings set up. I think I commented on how approachable different leaders in ICANN, whether it's board members or country leaders, are. You could literally hear them talking in a conference room and then right after go up and talk to them outside. So the ICANN world is kind of small and everyone knows each other, and rules take years to adopt. So a lot of people are wondering, okay, like, what about .eth? .eth is that 3-letter country code reserved for Ethiopia. However, no countries use those 3-letter codes. And so in some ways, it's in this legal gray area where it's not going to change. It means that they're reserved for GTLDs, meaning, no one can apply for .eth as a generic top-level domain. So in some ways, it's safe. But in other ways, we're also thinking about, okay, given existing generic top-level domains, and given that there's going to be a new application round open, how is ENS, like the wider ecosystem, and how is ENS Labs thinking about this? So I can't say too much more, given that, as you can imagine, this is really competitive process. There's a lot of companies that are going to be bidding for popular TLDs, I can imagine, like .crypto, .nft, .wallet. And no one is telegraphing their moves ahead of time, or else you sort of give your competitors insight into what they might be bidding on. But yeah, there's a few players in addition to ENS that are going to be going for a lot. And then similarly, I think for IP reasons and for the reasons that, it's a convincing argument for brands, because in crypto, there's so many hacks, there's domain spoofing, there's lookalikes, there's a lot of reasons why a big brand, whether that's an exchange or a wallet, may want to own their generic top-level domain, but not necessarily have to manage it. So there's a play there as well. But yeah, there's going to be more updates soon shared with the DAO. So I'm excited.
Amazing. Yeah, man. I'm super glad that we're in the race and well positioned. I'm not going to ask you any more kind of follow-up questions on that, because as you said, don't want to give away too many things. And plus, like, we have to, I'm really curious about asking you about growth, specifically in the context of ENS and for ENS. So can you just tell us a little bit about how does ENS growth strategy looks like for 2025? And what do you see maybe as the main kind of like focus areas for growth? Just like I'm curious about your personal take.
Yeah, I'm going to actually see if I can share my screen just a little bit. I'm not going to do the whole presentation and bore you guys, because this is sort of a Friday thing, but let me. One of the first things that I recognized, like, in trying to understand how ENS works and sort of like what is the play for subdomains and subnames. And this is just some data I pulled together using on-chain and off-chain sources. And in a lot of ways, like, I've normalized the cb.id subnames, but, people tend to focus on the .eth primary registrations, which makes sense. That's the entire source of revenue for the DAO. But kind of what we've missed, though, in terms of broader adoption of ENS as a standard and the protocol's adoption, ENS has been growing, and it's been growing through the sort of modularity and availability of subnames. And so different brands have used subnames for different reasons. Uni.eth is an example where, to them, it's purely a practical thing that every wallet user should do, and they're going to offer it to you for free. And so they store that data off-chain. It allows people to basically create a wallet, name it, and move on with their life. And that makes it easier for their users to, send funds between wallets or to friends. Base, on the other hand, treats it like your passport to your on-chain world, or your on-chain identity and your builder score. There's, servicing grants. They're helping people find, co-founders for companies with their base names. and they also charge for those. And so to me, in a lot of ways, like, this is kind of an insight into where is ENS growing and where is it not, and how can we grow both? And I still think that, despite subnames not directly creating revenue for the DAO, it is an important strategy for basically proliferating ENS as a naming standard. And had base names been launched independent of ENS, we might have had a different conversation right now. We would be saying, how do you compete with base? How do you compete with Linea? But really, I think where ENS is actually able to convince people, even at like ICANN meetings, is that, we're a DAO. ENS Labs is a nonprofit. There's a lot of ecosystem groups that are really just trying to build this open source standard, and they aren't looking to just create another namespace that's sellable. So yeah, the way I'm thinking about growing ENS, this is just one part of it, but I think first of all, there needs to be a lot more. The brand is cool, and we need to be doing a lot more visual tutorials. And so with that is like, we need to show how claiming names via all the different interfaces in which you can use ENS. And ENS is, obviously has app.ens.domains, but to me, it's about wallet distribution. It's about other social apps. It's about the apps people use and the consumers use. And if ENS is integrated, that's great. But I also think that these apps, Rainbow is maybe a good example, but these apps could do more to sort of push users to get an ENS name. We've been talking to, Venmo and PayPal, for example, and they've already made great improvements in resolving all of the, or at least Ethereum and Solana addresses you have associated with a .eth name. But wouldn't it be cool if you could open up PayPal and they have right now in the user flow a pop-up that says, now you can use ENS as a name. They already have that, but what if you could click on that and claim an ENS name? So we're thinking a lot about existing integrations and making sure that these are, these apps or fintech apps are also incentivized to help people claim names, which helps grow .eth. And I mentioned some of that, but like, it is pretty amazing that, within 2 clicks, you can claim a name in Rainbow. And I know there's been like Lightwalker has had a proposal out for a couple of years. There's been talk about referral fees. And so maybe that's something that comes up again, to sort of give a direct financial incentive. I don't want to speak ahead of, any governance discussion though, but if you think about it, like, I come from MetaMask. We definitely talked about ENS and we want people to claim ENS names, but what are ways to incentivize ENS claiming within the app itself? But I also think, here's an example where we only saw, I think I was looking at the data recently, there's like 23,000 users that have associated a DNS record with their ENS name. Part of that has to do with, and this is not me casting blame on ENS or anyone, it's just kind of this sort of way that marketing works in a lot of organizations where engineers and product people are working for months and months with another team. And then all of a sudden you're ready to launch and you get really excited and it's a Tuesday afternoon and you go live and you said, ENS and GoDaddy are partnered to do this, and people get excited and then it just ends. And so to me, 2024 was a great example where there was some really good integrations, but they kind of just ended there. And here's an example from the GoDaddy like help center, how to actually link a GoDaddy domain to ENS. But we need to do more, we need to create more content and more tutorials and examples of why you'd want to do this, of how you do it. Basically, all the things that people deep in the ENS ecosystem know about are maybe a first-time thing for someone else who might already have a .eth name, but not have thought about linking their DNS records. And let me just see one more thing.
Yeah, you have a hour-long probably presentation, and then
I'm gonna just talk about
minutes. I think Coltron has like either an issue connecting, or he said that he's trying to figure out if he can connect without logging in. Maybe he thinks that I'm I don't know. Coltron, if you're listening to this, I'm not trying to scam you or fish you or whatever. Yeah, let's see if if he joins. But until he joins, we can keep the conversation going because I absolutely love talking to you. You and I are so aligned in terms of our thinking for how to grow ENS. This is just ridiculous when I'm listening to you talk. Like my inner voice is just saying like, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, because I just agree 100% with everything that you said. I had throughout you talking, I had a lot of comments
Yeah, go ahead. We have
because
some time, it looks like.
but yeah, but the thing is, when you want to say like one thing and then you try, okay, I want to mention that, and then I want to mention that, and then I want to mention that, and by the end, like you're done. I'm just so focused on you talking that I kind of forget everything. But I wanna like like while I have you here for a short time, I wanna get the most information from you. Um, I'm curious. Like you mentioned some of the growth like areas, focus areas that we should, as a community and service providers and ecosystem, and you specifically with labs, we should focus on. And what I'm hearing is basically off-chain subnames. Um, do you see off-chain subnames, L2 subnames, having people just run their own namespace, like on
Mhm.
a chain-wide level, and allow people like base names did for their community to leverage base names? So it kind of works well for base names as well if people are just adopting this like human readable standard for wallets. So imagine all of the people who build on base either use their own ENS or leverage base.eth, which is pretty cool. So I'm hearing those, and I'm hearing a lot of like decentralized website and decentralized domain stuff from like integrations with GoDaddy and stuff like that. So those are like big like areas that I've heard for growth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you see, for example, like specific industries in crypto that we should focus on that will bring the most amount of users in whatever like you think that is best for growth, whether that's like the DAO kind of revenue and registering
Mhm.
second level names or subnames and registering them for free, or maybe like even paid subnames people like base names do. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts? Like obviously wallets are killing it. What do you see maybe other kind of category that will do great?
Yeah, so I guess the question is, at least in the United States, we call these like fintech apps, Venmo, PayPal. Right
Oh
now,
yes,
that feature
yes.
that you see from the ENS Twitter account, which kind of shows you sending PYUSD using, you could use Ethereum, you could use Solana. That's just something that's only available in the United States right now. And I know the PayPal team has grand plans for expanding globally and want PYUSD to be sort of this digital dollar that can be used for cross-border payments. So if you were to ask me, Cap, for me currently to send money to Belgrade or I guess to Serbia,
Yeah,
it is quite expensive using traditional financial rails. I still think, and you look at even the mergers and acquisitions in our space over the last year or two, stablecoins, it's like sounds super obvious, but payments and stablecoins are still not ubiquitous using crypto rails. And so PayPal is a great example to have with ENS, where we're already saying, maybe sending money across borders is easier if you choose the PYUSD option. It's going to be
yeah,
cheaper. You can send it directly to a person. You don't have to wait however many days to settle, sometimes 3 to 5 days. Um, and so I still think that PayPal is just the start. We need Pix in Brazil. We need Klarna. We need all of the major European fintechs. All of these are just kind of, it's an entryway into expanding USD adoption. And part of it is like, well, is ENS responsible for that? In some ways, I think so, because we're the naming standard for Ethereum and really for a lot of blockchains. And it's sort of a pitch to say, look, if you want users adopting a product, you need an easy version to do it.
yeah.
And so having a username where you can receive money across borders is very important.
And it eliminates like multi-chain. It's multi-chain. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
underappreciated aspect.
Yeah.
One name, all addresses, all chains. There you go.
Um,
Um,
yeah. And then, I'm looking at the comments, and Griff said they
ju-
used about 20,000 ENS subdomain DNS records. That's true with the ETH
yeah,
Denver example he said before
yeah.
this. So there's already like examples where, you know, conferences, anything that requires sort of even temporary identities could be using a standard where the fact that I now have an ETH Denver subname, that's something they can use moving forward. So imagine a sports team, whether it's like, American football or global football, starting to give out sort of names and subnames for a team. And all of a sudden you have this sort of years-long record of how much you've supported. You can imagine musicians and artists and any sort of fan model using subnames as an example.
Yeah.
I think also for the growth of Namechain, there needs to be more than just existing .eth names transacting on the chain for the chain to be successful. And that's what we're also thinking about when it comes to DNS records and registries. We're talking to registries, whether it's the biggest like Identity Digital or others, to say,
Yeah.
every time you issue a DNS domain, you can out of the box have it connect to ENS, and that would be beneficial for Namechain because then, it's creating transaction volume and settling on Namechain.
Yeah. Well, look, man. I wish now I wish I scheduled like at least 30 minutes with every single guest speaker, man.
I'll
Especially
join the
with
next
you.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's I guess that puts me right on the spot. So I have to commit now that I'm gonna do another one, hopefully soon. But I just see Coltron join, and I know he's at the airport, and I have to let him in. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time and appreciate everything that you are starting to do for ENS. And I hope we get to chat a lot more in the future. And yeah, man, let's grow this beast into something amazing. All right.
Big respect to you, Cap, and I'll be tuning in. And yeah, let's have another call sometime.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.